Gita as per our plan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Just give me a few minutes to take care of all the technical things. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarujyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo. Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chanda Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Chanda Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Jaya Radha Shyam Sundar Radha Shyam Sundar Shri Radhe Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Vrindavan Dham Vrindavan Dham Vrindavan Dham Jaya Vrindavan Dham Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Ram Sankirtana Yagya Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Hare Krishna, dear worshipable devotees, thank you so much for joining, taking out your valuable time to read here Bhagavad Gita together in the association of all of you, so wonderful devotees. We are so blessed, grateful to all of you. Shridham Prabhu, Ravi Shankar Prabhu, Mataji, Avinash Prabhu, Abhishek Prabhu, Sheetal, Prasad Mataji, Nita Mataji, Varsha Mataji, Lakshya Prabhu, Megha Mataji, Mohan Prabhu also there, Karthik Prabhu. Wow, this room is so bright because all of you are so bright, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and I'm so blessed actually. Mishuk Prabhu, Sampada Mataji, Rashmi Mataji, who else? Nayan Prabhu, Radha Mataji. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking out your valuable time in reading and hearing and understanding and realizing Bhagavad Gita. What could be better thing in life to do than to come together, as Krishna says, Machchata Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. This is the best thing in life to do. What? To come together and chant Krishna's name form qualities, sing about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc. That is the real thing which gives happiness. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. It gives real joy, real satisfaction. Is not in watching movie or in hanging out with in malls and stuff. Mall just gives us mala, mala. In Bengali, what you will say mall? Oh, it's mall jar, mall, right? Mall is mala. But what do we need to cleanse that mala or dirt is what is Bhagavad Gita. Jala, what's that words? Sakrit Gita Snanam. Maline mochanam pumsam jalasnana dine dine sakrit Gita amrita snanam samsara molo nashanam. When we take bath, the outside body is cleansed. But when we take bath with the nectarian Ganges of the Bhagavad Gita, our heart is cleansed. And today's a very, very interesting topic is about what's our biggest enemy. Last time, if you remember, we stopped at that sometimes we know something what is right to be done, but still a person ends up doing the wrong thing. Why? I think that's where we stopped. That's what the 36th verse, Arjuna's question, why are we impelled to do sinful acts even unwillingly as if we are forced to do that? So I'm sure we are all very, very eager and inquisitive to hear that. But before that, we will take some thoughts and reflections also. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Before we start, let's do the Mangalacharana prayers. Niranjasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manojishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Nadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate. So I'm getting just that my voice is not clear. Join back real quick and someone can continue the Bangla Shara seconds back. Hare Krishna, how is it now?
It's better, Prabhuji.
Not completely okay?
It is okay, yeah. I can hear.
Okay, so it's good. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Namaha Pankajnabhaya Namaha Pankajamalini Namaha Pankajanitraya Namaste Pankajangriye. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopanga Parshadam Yagge Sankirtana Prayajanti Sumedasam. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girimet Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatharinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणि जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. So thank you again for joining. I hope it's clear now. It's okay now. Good, good. So let's first take some thoughts or from the last reading. Anyone remembers what we read last time or what we discussed till text number 36? Would someone like to share? What was the critical points discussed in the last session? Anyone remembers? Yes, Vedi, please.
I think in one of the shlokas it said it is better to perform your own duty faultily than to do other people's duties perfectly. So you should do your own duties.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Better to be a sincere sweeper in the street than to be a pseudo meditator. Right? Because Prabhupada quotes that point. So you don't have to copy paste other stuff. Everyone is unique. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own propensity, skills, etc. So very nice point. Anyone else remembers something from last time?
Prabhuji, I think I remember your point. We mentioned like renunciation should be off the work. It should be not off the work. It should be in the work. Like work in devotion, not for the fruitive results.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Renunciation should be not off the work, but in the work, internal. So very nice. So now we are at the last acronym or the last alphabet of the acronym TREE. That's Bhagavad Gita chapter 3. The first few verses talk about Tyaga or renunciation, then the different step-by-step rungs of the yoga ladder, and then we have the example. No matter, even if one is self-realized completely, one should follow the example. One should be exemplary because the ordinary people will follow the example. Like even Krishna says, I also do the activities, although I am not bound because I am the Supreme Lord. Like we discussed the example of CEO. CEO can park his car anywhere in the building, but generally he'll park at the right spot. Once in a blue moon, he will park at a different spot, but no one can say anything to him. Similarly, the police will also follow the traffic rules, but in case of emergency or some other critical situation, they can jump red lights and they can speed over, etc. So we discuss all those points. Now Arjuna is asking this question here, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts even unwillingly as if engaged by force? So we discussed this point last time and we stopped at the question. So now we will move to the answer. And this is the last E, T-R-E-E. The last E is the enemy of soul. What is that E, that enemy of soul, which Arjuna is asking from text 37 till the last verse, which is, I believe, 43, we will cover today. What is that enemy? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhenam Iha Vairinam. Someone wants to read the translation, please? Yes, Aradhana Mataji, yes, please.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world."
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very, very crystal clear answer that it is lust only. And we have discussed in the chapter 2 also, text 63, that how it is born of the contact with the material mode. Dhyayato vishayan punsa sangas teshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho vijayate. We have discussed that whole transgression into this pool of material world, into the loss of one's self or one's intelligence. This is very, very devouring enemy. Why? Because it is so difficult to even notice the enemy. Correct? When the enemy is invisible, then it's very hard to overcome it. Right? There are different types of problems. Some problems are born out of some, let's say, food. Correct? Foodborne problems. Some are waterborne problems. Some are airborne problems, and we know what situation we are in. Guess which problem is most difficult to overcome? The foodborne, the waterborne, or the airborne? Anyone?
Airport facilities.
Yes, airborne, and that's why the whole world is in such a difficult predicament. Correct? Because changing, okay, food poisoning, don't eat the bad food, you will be safe. It's easy to identify. Don't eat outside, easy to identify. But if something is unknown, it's hard. Now, still it's airborne, still it's gross, right? It's a very fine particle, but it's a gross particle. But these are even more subtler. Even with the finest of the microscopes, can we see lust in a physical form, like how we can see probably the coronas, the doctors and the scientists can see the corona particles, right? You can correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. They are microorganisms, but they can see these airborne particles, not with a naked eye, but with some special instruments. They can see those. But can we see lust? Can we see anger? And lust is even more subtler than anger. Anger can be, when a person is really angry, we can feel through the expressions, we can feel through the facial expressions or the tone of the voice, etc. But lust is even more hard to identify. What to speak of in others and our own self. And we will see lust is not just Let's read a few points from the translation or the purport. I want to come to this point here. Yes. Can someone read from here a few lines here, this section? Yes. Akshay, Prabhu?
Yes, sir. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself into many for his ever increasing spiritual bliss, and the living entities are part and parcels of this spiritual bliss. They are to have thought and independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the way of self-discovery.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So we'll see different definitions of lust. There are multiple ways we can define lust. One definition is to desire to enjoy senses, correct? In an unregulated way. Eat what you want, do what you want, drink what you want. This is also lust. Lust is not just attraction to opposite sex. That's also one form of it, but it could be excessive attachment to anything. One definition by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as we just read, Lakshay Prabhu read, the misuse of one's independence or one's free will. We have minute free will, whether to serve God or to serve one's own mind and senses. Correct? We have a choice. So if we serve our own mind and senses, that is kama or lust. Atmendriya priti vancha tare bolikam, Krishnera priti icha dhare premanam. Atmendriya priti vancha. When the desire to satisfy one's own senses is kama or lust. It could be the eye sense, it could be the hearing sense, it could be the speaking sense, any sense. There are so many knowledge acquiring senses and action senses, and etc. Any desire other than to serve Krishna is actually lust. So it may be a little heavy, but this is what our acharyas and scriptures are teaching. So it's not just the attraction to opposite sex. That's certainly one form of it, but it's quite deeper. And it's very hard to identify. We'll see where to identify and where is it found. So any desire other than to serve Krishna. That's the third definition. And the fourth definition is identifying oneself, that's myself, with the body, or things in relation to body. This is my car, this is my property, this is me, my wife, my guru, my I, me, iPhone, iPad, so everything I. Ahankara vimurada. I am the center of the world. Aham bhogi, aham ishwara. I am the controller, I am the master. This is also, in one way, lust. So in short, only this propensity is which impels us to keep doing things even though we may not want to do. Lack of spiritual understanding and absorption in self-consciousness, not Krishna consciousness. So if one is sincere, we will see how to overcome these propensities as well. But for now, we will move to next verse. Can the lust and wrath be spiritualized? Then the question may come. There's a very nice way Srila Prabhupada is explaining here. Let's see the example of from here. Yes. Can someone read this section? Whether you want to read?
Prabhuji, may I read?
Yes, Mishu. Yes.
If, therefore, lust is transformed into love for the Supreme, or transformed into Krishna consciousness, or in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized. Hanuman, the great servitor of Lord Rama, exhibited his wrath by burning the golden city of Ravana, but by doing so, he became the greatest devotee of the Lord. Here also, in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord induces Arjuna to engage his wrath upon his enemies for the satisfaction of the Lord. Therefore, lust and wrath, when they are employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies.
Thank you. Thank you. We are so blessed that you got your opening and sanskar done and you are reading for us now. Thank you. Prabhu. So, how to overcome them? By not by negation, but by giving higher taste of Krishna consciousness. When the senses demand for the lower taste, we have to give the higher taste. Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 59. When the mind and senses wants to go to the lower taste, we give the higher taste. And in Krishna consciousness, we have so many varieties of higher taste. Kirtan, dancing, chanting, feasting, fasting, festivals, Rath Yatra, books, philosophy, devotees, deities, so many ways we can, festivals, dham yatras, and wonderful prasadam, unlimited varieties of prasadam, unlimited varieties of flavors of devotees, and so many things we can do. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, going for yatras together, going for spiritual picnics, going for kirtan, street parties, so many things can be done. All the things which the materialistic do, spend their valuable time, money, energy, and health, and lose their consciousness. Devotees do everything for free, and they gain transcendental realization and go back home, back to God. So which intelligent human being would not take that? The example is here given is Ravana. Ravana used lust for wrong purposes and he was burnt. That lust became his biggest enemy. His wrath became the biggest enemy as a cause of his own destruction. Whereas Hanuman used his lust transformed into spiritual love towards Lord Ram. Lust, when transformed or spiritualized, is love, pure love to the Lord and to the Lord's devotees. Not in a selfish way, but a selfless way. He had pure love towards Lord Ram, and he used that to become a true servant, and he used his wrath to destroy Ravana's golden city. So in that way, that became the best of the friends, because he controlled it or engaged in a higher purpose. Ravana, rather used for a lower purpose, became that same wrath and lust became the cause of biggest degradation. So let's read the next verse, text 38. Yes, Nandini Mataji, you want to read this one?
Yes, Rodanda Pranam. Dhumrena triyate vahanmir yatha darsho malena cha yatho blena vruto garbhas tatha tene damavrutam avrutam. Translation by Prabhupada ki jai. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading this wonderful verse.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Nice, wonderful class. Thank you so much.
So in this wonderful verse, the Supreme Lord Krishna is explaining the different degrees of lust. What's the first example? Fire covered by smoke. The next example is mirror covered by dust. And the third example, embryo covered by the womb. Now, if we go in a relative, all of these are coverings. Correct? You all agree with that? All of these are coverings. But one is a thicker covering, right? Is the embryo covering the womb covering the embryo same as fire covering the smoke? Sorry, smoke covering the fire? No. The smoke covering the fire is a much milder covering. Therefore, that covering is called mridu kama, right? There are three layers: mridu kama, madhyam kama, and tivra kama. Mridu, madhyam, and tivra. Tivra means intense. So the first covering is representing the human beings. They are covered with lust. The soul is Satchitananda. We were reading today morning also. The soul is free from all these gross and subtle things. But these coverings make us feel that I am this body. I am, everything is in connection to the body, is me and mine. So there is slight degree of lust. And guess what? When there is only slight covering, is it easier to remove or difficult to remove? Let's say, for we all clean vessels, correct? All of you must have cleansed some vessels. When the pot is thickly, sometimes you're making something and you forget, and then there is a very thick layer of burnt something, right? Has anyone experienced that? A thick layer at the bottom, and right, I have certainly experienced that. So I'm not a good cook, so it has happened with me. Now, is it easy to clean it or hard to clean it?
Hard.
It's hard compared to if you just do some mild to a mild layer of dirt. So very simple. The thicker the covering, or the thicker the covering is, the more grosser it is, the harder it will be. So similarly, in this example, the human the first analogy, the smoke covered by the fire, the smoke covering the fire, is representing humans, mridu kama. The lust is there, but compared to others, the dust covering the mirror and the womb covering the embryo, that represents trees, and the dust covering the mirror represents the animals. So the degree of lust is much higher. That is called madhyama, medium. So the chance now, the thicker the covering, the less the chance to overcome it, correct? Therefore, in the animal species, it's harder to overcome the lust. Therefore, we don't see any or many, very, very rarely we see in the scriptures that this animal got self-realization, right? From the humans, we see like 1,000 examples, we'll see one example of animal or two examples, right? On a relative scale, sometimes by the causeless mercy of devotees. And with the trees, etc., the covering is even more stronger. So that's called Tivra Kama, and it's even harder. The chance to overcome is even harder. So what does that mean? That means we are in a very favorable situation. We could have been in the body of animals or trees. Bahunam Janmanamante. We have covered Durlabho Manusho Deho. This human life is very rare after millions of lifetime as animals, trees, and different birds, insects. There are so many species, 88.4 million types of species are there.
আচ্ছা না আমার করতে কোনো সমস্যা নাই
Please keep your phones on mute. So out of millions of species, getting human species is no joke. But we are also fortunate and blessed to have that, isn't it? Now that we have a very high chance of spiritual success or accomplishment, because we are in human body where the covering of lust is there, but it's mild compared to the others. So we should use this opportunity, this junction, to fully become Krishna conscious. And how can we do that? By practicing the process of Krishna consciousness. So we'll read this example here. Prabhupada's words from this If would someone like to read this part? Avinash ji, you want to read?
Hare Krishna, everyone. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy lust by the cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very nice. By carefully handling the smoke in the fire, like span the fire or fan the sorry, fan the spark. So when we fan the smoke, the fire of bhakti will again ignite. But if someone is covered with lust, how can they help the other person covered with lust? So therefore, we need able guidance of senior Vaishnavas, spiritual master, the expert, who can help us to cultivate that fire, to reignite the dormant fire. It's there. It's not that the soul is Nitya, Satchidananda, eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But when that covering is gone, the natural propensity will reignite. It's, for example, let's say the iron particle. Right? Imagine a piece of iron. Iron has a natural propensity of magnetism, correct? When the magnet, when the iron is close to the magnet, let's say this is magnet, this is iron, it will naturally attract, correct? You all agree? It will naturally attract. But if that iron is, let's say, covered with this rust, right? It won't be attracted. Has it lost its magnetism? No. All we have to do is scrape off that covering of rust, of lust. Then when the covering is gone, then naturally the iron will attract to the magnet. This is why we are here. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. By chanting the holy names, our heart will be cleansed and natural Krishna consciousness will rekindle. So bhakti is a natural thing. This is not an unnatural process. All we have to do is rekindle that and shave off that lust, remove that lust. Let's see the next verse. Someone want to read this one? Sampada Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya vairina kama rupena kaunteya duspurena lena cha. Translation. Thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, back to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Very nice. It is Nitya Vairi. Nitya Vairi means eternal enemy. It's never satisfied. Very, very important. Never satisfied. Dush Purena. Some people think, oh, if I satisfy my senses, then they will naturally calm down. And they make their own acronyms or their own so-called quotations. Like they say that if you keep enjoying your senses, then that will lead to samadhi. Sambhog se samadhi. By enjoying senses, you will be liberated. Because everyone, the bogus gurus say that, and the blind followers, we were reading blind leader, blind follower, they want all these things, which a conditioned mind wants. A conditioned mind does not want to hear, oh, why are you saying me to not gratify my senses? But even from a material perspective, health perspective, spiritual perspective, consciousness perspective, from any perspective, if we analyze this situation, no one is happy after sense gratification, selfish sense gratification. I was just hearing the science has proven that if someone is watching wrong content on the internet, etc., which is available in tremendous amount these days, one lady made this bad kind of magazine, and you will be amazed how much revenue she's getting. 400,000 in royalty for an ebook because of the sales of that magazine. So can we imagine where the world is going in the consciousness? Because everyone wants that. And therefore, we discussed that 99.99% of the people are just going this is the Nitya Berry is killing us. This is a much bigger problem than any other problem. This corona is a very actually tiny problem. It is a situational problem. But this overcoming these enemies is a much important thing in life. Because even if there is corona or no corona, this lust will continue to harm us. It will be a Nitya Vari. There's a nice story in this regard. One time, one king said, well, what's wrong in, I think it was Akbar or something. So he said that by age, lust will go away, correct? He said if someone is, let's say, in the 70s, 80s, 60s, lust just troubles in the youth when someone is, young, 20s, 30s, etc. After that, the lust will satiate. No, the scriptures don't agree with that. The first line, Manusmriti, is saying lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. There are so many examples in this. King, this Ajamil story is there, Mandata story is there. So many stories are there. It cannot be satisfied by, it's like if there is a fire and you put fuel into it, will the fire increase or reduce? The fire will increase. If we have to reduce that fire, we have to stop the fuel and stop the bad environment. We may have heard this in our science classes in our childhood or in a young age, that we have, if we have to control the fire, what things we have to do? We have to stop the fuel, right? And we have to not provide a favorable environment to the fire to flourish. So not providing favorable environment is that, let's say if I hang out with smokers, drunkards, and the people who do illicit things, guess what my mind and senses will want to do, right? They will want to do the same things which those people are doing. If I watch bad content, guess what my mind and senses will provoke me to do? Very simple, that content. And it is said that by watching the bad content, there is permanent damage to our brain cells, which is irrevocable. Scientists have proven that. So it's very, very important because and therefore at a young age, people's memory loss, health challenges because of unregulated senses, free mixing of senses and opposite sex, these problems are happening more and more. Rather, if someone is not having these things, then that's considered outlier. Yes, we may consider it as outlier, but we don't want to follow the herd mentality, right? We want to follow the Guru Sadhu Shastra. We want to follow the right path, not just what the world is saying, if it is not aligned with the Guru Sadhu and Shastra. So very, very important that this is a Nitya Vari. So we have to understand that this is an eternal enemy. And now then you may say that, can we be away from our enemy? Let's say if my enemy, let's just example, if my enemy is XYZ person, then I can be, if I'm 1,000 miles away from him or her, then I'm pretty much safe, right? You can say that if I'm way far. Now, we have to identify the location of this enemy, correct? Because if it's a Nitya Vari, if it's our eternal enemy, then we must identify, right? Then only we can overcome. Because if we don't even know where this enemy resides, how will we ever be able to overcome the enemy? So let's see the question. Indirectly, Arjuna is asking, where does this lust reside? How can I find? Please give me the address. So let's see this verse, text 40. Anyone wants to read this one? Yes, Vidhi.
Indriyani manobhutir asyadhishtanam uchyate etirvimohayati yesha jnanam avritya dehinam. Translation: the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So now Krishna is giving the hideout, the hideout for lust. What is that hideout? The senses, the mind, and the intelligence. So they have the lust. The enemy has captured, Prabhupada is writing, different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul. So we have to be very, very careful. Intelligence is the next door neighbor of the soul. And lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire false ego and identify with the matter. We discussed that. Identifying with the body is, and then we may have discussed this analogy multiple times. Like the intelligence is like just imagine the 5 horses, the 5 senses are like the chariot, the horses in the chariot. They're very wild. They want to run in different directions, hither and thither. They want to drag the chariot in the way they want to go. But the reins, the lagam, is the mind, which connects the senses, which is like the link between the senses and the intelligence. The intelligence is the chariot driver, correct? The chariot driver is the intelligence. So all these 3 is kind of a tag team, like a trio team they have. So if the intelligence is strong, that means positively nourished by spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, will the senses be able to go in the direction they want to go? No. Sometimes you may have seen people walking their dogs, right? Sometimes the dog is so heavy that the dog is taking the master in the direction the dog is so powerful. And the child may be walking the dog, but the child does not have that strength, right? So is the dog pulling the child or the child pulling the dog? Are you able to relate this example? You have all must have seen that kind of thing, right? Somewhere, because in US especially, so many people walk their dogs here. That's a different topic, but if the dog is more powerful, then the dog will pull the master. Or who is master, who is servant? That's also a different question actually. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj gives a wonderful class on that. Who is serving actually? Who is the master? Who is the servant? So, but the point is, if the intelligence is strong, then the intelligence will be able to say, no, this is not good for me. I will not see that. I will not do that. I will not eat that. I will not, because all eyes, touch, eating, kind of association, we have to say no to the bad environment. The mind, the conditioned mind and senses will say, no, 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 look at that. My friends are also doing. They seem to be enjoying. Oh, they seem to be happy about it. No, if we see that which is not aligned with the scriptures, we have to say no. What is sincerity? What is taking shelter? I was just hearing this class. What does it mean by taking shelter of Krishna? It means saying no to what is not good for us. Not good for us based on scriptures, not based on the conditioned mind, based on Guru Sadhu Shastra. If Guru Sadhu Shastra say you must not do this and we don't do this, that's great. That will nurture us. If Guru Sadhu Shastra say you must take good association, you must read Bhagavad Gita, you must read Bhagavatam, you must take Krishna Prasad, you must chant the holy name, you must serve the deities, etc. And if we do that, our intelligence will get stronger and stronger and stronger. It's like the good dog and the bad dog, right? Which one will win? The one we feed the more. Similarly, good intelligence, Krishna conscious intelligence, and bad intelligence, materialistic intelligence. Which one will win? the one we feed the most, the one where if we are providing more favorable environment in more bad association, then we are nourishing the bad intelligence, conditioned mind, conditioned intelligence. So we have to nourish the good dog. Even if there are sometimes unknowingly we in a situation where there is a provoking situation, the good intelligence will be so strong, it will say, no, it's not good for me. Right? My guru is watching me. Srila Prabhupada is watching me. Devotees are watching me. Krishna is watching me. So we'll be able to say no. Ajamil also saw something inappropriate. He was a very, very nice devotee. But at that time, he said no externally. Externally, he said no, came back. But in the heart, he kept lingering on those thoughts. Dhyayato Vishayan Punsa. Oh, how I wish I would also in that position. It would be so nice and blah, blah, blah. And then it led to that degradation, lust, anger, greed, attachment, buddhi nasha, etc. So saying no to the bad, saying yes to the good. This is bhakti. This is text 40. And intelligence, mind, intelligence, and the senses or the places. So we have to be careful. What are they demanding? Are they demanding something from the conditioned lusty desires? Or are they really, is it the voice of the bad dog, or is it the voice of the good dog? Because we cannot be physically away from this. Can we be physically away from our mind and intelligence? Right? What do you think? Can we say, okay, mind and intelligence will keep you 1,000 miles away, so you don't bother me? Every moment we are with our mind and intelligence. They're the next door neighbor of the soul. So we cannot just, ignore them. We have to purify them. Then only we can overcome. Let's see the last few verses. 41. Yes. Nikant Prabhu, you want to read?
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. 641. Tasmatvam indriyani adau niyamaya bharata shraddha papa manam prajahi hayam yanam jnana vijnana nashanam. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Thank you, Prabhu. Back to you.
Wonderful. Now the formula, Arjuna is asking kind of what is, okay, now you have told me where are the hideouts. Now I want to know how to destroy them, how to slay them. So what is Krishna telling? Adau. Adau is very important. If we keep lingering on our thoughts, if we say, no, I will go to the bar every day, but I'll just drink lemonade there. I won't be impacted. I'm a pure soul. Then, in just a matter of days, the person will start drinking alcohol, or whatever the bad environment will have an impact. Similarly, we discussed just the example of Ajamil. Sometimes we may also see something inappropriate, like driving on the road, or especially in this country, or even in India these days. Unknowingly, wantingly, we may see something inappropriate. But we have a choice there at that point. We can continue to linger on that thought, or we can curb that by thinking of something higher, by remembering the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And if we know our weaknesses better, then we can, plan that in advance. So we have to curb this enemy in the beginning. If we let the senses loose, then it will be very hard to overcome. The more, our thoughts, the more we keep speculating, thinking, contemplation about the senses and the sense objects, and we will go into deeper and deeper stages in 2.62, 63 verse, the more harder it will be to get out. The more we will be in the grip of the conditioned mind and conditioned senses. So we have to do this by this process of bhakti, the process of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is mentioning here that yes, let's read this portion. Yes, from here maybe. Someone wants to read? Yes, Megha Mataji, you want to read this section?
Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So, from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating their senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into the love of the God, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So no matter whatever our age is, no matter whatever our current situation is, everyone can follow the process of bhakti. Srila Prabhupada came to United States. Some were in 20s, some were in 30s. They were mostly in their youth. But they were doing all sorts of wrong things at that time, most of them. But by following this process of regulative principles, this is called the Vedhi Bhakti. There are certain do's and don'ts. They're not to kind of choke us. They are to liberate us, actually. Therefore, they're called the regulative principles of freedom. They're not to inhibit, they're but rather to help us. For example, if the child is putting hand in the fire and the father says, hey, don't put hand in the fire, is the father choking the child or hampering the independence of the child, but rather trying to help the child? Similarly, intelligence is like the bodyguard, correct? Bodyguard. So like let's say some big people have these bodyguards, correct? They're supposed to protect, right? They're supposed to protect that influential person, let's say the president's bodyguard or prime minister's bodyguard. But what if the bodyguard is corrupted? What do you think? Will there is any chance of, and the person does not know that my bodyguard is corrupted to kill me? What will be the situation of that person? That person has no hope, because the person who he or she is relying to protect, that person is making plan to kill. It happened in the story of Indira Gandhi and multiple assassinations and things. We're not going into political details, but the point is, intelligence is like the bodyguard, the next door neighbor of the soul. But if the intelligence is corrupted, the same intelligence will destroy us without our being aware of it. But so therefore we have to purify that intelligence. We don't have to let the intelligence be corrupted. The bodyguard, it is supposed to give us the right rationale through Guru Sadhu Shastra, that this is, I have to say no to this, I have to say yes to this. And when we are confused, we have to take Sadhu Sangha, Guru Sangha, Shastra Sangha, so we can nourish the bodyguard. The bodyguard has to be strong. He has to, or she has to, be good enough to protect. So we have to also continuously keep nourishing our senses, with spiritual food, the intelligence, the mind. So let's see the next verse. Text. Indriyani parani ahur indriyebhya param manaha manastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastut saha. Yes, Prakriti Mataji, you want to read this verse, 42?
Hare Krishna. The working senses are superior to the mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. Back to you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So, how do we, what are the outlets? The different outlets of the lust activities, like through hand or through eyes, like someone may watch something inappropriate, someone may think something inappropriate, someone may eat something inappropriate, the hands, or do something inappropriate, or kill someone, or murder someone. So the working senses are compared to the outlets through the express the lust, because intelligence is like the software, right? When the software is corrupted, then the computer will crash, right? Or the virus is there in the system, the computer will crash, nothing will run, the programs will, everything will go bad. So they are superior to the dull matter. And then the mind is one step higher. We have already discussed the example. The mind is like the reins, senses are like the horses. The intelligence is even one step higher, and that is the intelligence of the charioteer, the driver of the chariot. And the soul is even one step higher, because what is the purpose of the chariot, the horses, the chariot driver is to carry the passenger to a safe destination, and that is to go back home, back to Godhead. That will only happen when the chariot driver is not corrupted. Otherwise, the plane is hijacked, the chariot is hijacked, right? Rather than taking to a safe destination, they'll take to a wrong destination. So therefore, we discussed this point. So we'll move to the last verse of this chapter. A very, very nice point is there. Neophyte spiritualists is generally advised to keep aloof from this objects of the senses. Very nice point. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by the use of intelligence. So both the points, we discussed this example. We have to stay away from what is sincerity. What is sincerity is Vyavasayatmika buddhi. What is good for me, I will accept it. Good for me in the sense, good for my spiritual consciousness, I will say yes to those. And what is not good for me, watching some inappropriate stuff, hanging out with people which may not be conducive for my spiritual life, or eating some stuff which will not be conducive, meat eating, intoxication, alcohol, watching inappropriate content. TV is a big form. These days, TV is corrupting, or media now. People will not watch TV, but internet, TV, all these, we have to be on guard. Savdhani hati, durgatna ghati. If we are not on guard, then it will be very difficult. TV, internet, social media, these are actually, we have to be very, very careful in handling. It's like playing with fire. If we're not careful in properly using it, then we will burn our hands and our whole consciousness. So it may sound little hard, but yes, bhakti means we have to follow the right and say yes to the good and no to the bad. I mean, Prabhupada is very, very clearly saying these. I'm just repeating in a paraphrased manner. So, plus at the same time, we have to strengthen. It's not that, okay, I don't watch TV, I'm okay, just I'll lie down on the beach and I'm not shanti, shanti, shanti. Okay, no TV, that's fine. But how will we positively nourish? Well, we have to read Bhagavad Gita. We have to take good side. Otherwise, the process is not of negation. You have to say no to few things, and the no will automatically happen when there's a higher yes. Correct? When we have such nice, good association of devotees, then why do we need association of people who are always critical, finding faults, and speaking ill about others? Would anyone want to be in that environment when someone has such nice, good devotee association? Similarly, if someone has nice, wonderful Krishna prasadam, why will someone crave for other nonsense things? All the craving will naturally go out. The bad craving, I mean. Same with chanting, dancing. Bhakti is so much fun. Bhakti is not dry. There's unlimited varieties: dancing, chanting, festivals, nice prasadam, kirtan, music. I mean, pretty much every skill, every propensity, every desire can be spiritualized. All we need to do is to be an instrument in the hands of the Vaishnavas and the spiritual master, and they will help us. Like Prabhupada's disciples, someone good in painting, someone good in dancing, someone good in organizing, someone good in kirtan, someone good in temple management, someone good in deity worship, someone good in making the deities. Unlimited varieties, unlimited skills, unlimited ways we can engage our mind and intelligence and senses in the service of the master of the senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uttamam. In that way, they will not trouble us. So we have to keep them busy. Otherwise, they will bother, because empty minds, devil's workshop. We have to keep busy in our spiritual life. The last verse of this chapter, chapter 3, text 43. Would someone want to read this one? Shital Mataji, want to read?
Hare Krishna, everybody. Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhayat manam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kama rupam durasadam. Translation: thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So Krishna is just concluding in the last verse what the points we discussed pretty much here, that we the soul, are above or transcendental to this mind, senses, sense objects, etc. So how do we overcome lust? By saying no to the bad, accepting the good or spiritual intelligence, nourishing the spiritual intelligence by following the regulative principles of freedom. Prabhupada makes a beautiful point in here that someone can read probably. Yeah, someone wants to read this. Yes, Vedi. Sorry, Vinita.
One may not give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind, by steady intelligence directed towards one pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter.
Thank you so much. So Krishna is not saying give up school, give up college, give up job, give up home, give up wife, children. No, that's not the goal. All of those things in the right consciousness can be very, very conducive for bhakti. In chapter 7, text 11, 7-11, you all see 7-11s, right? You can remember this verse when you see 7-11. Balam balam vatam chaham kama. What's that verse? Kama vivarjita dharma vriddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshavaha. That I am the sex life which is not contrary to the religious principles. We've discussed this point that out of the 12 Mahajans, 7 Mahajans were in the Grihastha ashram. That means they had family, husband, wife, children, etc., kingdom. We're talking about Satyavrat Muni in the Bhagavatam series. He was a Raj Rishi. That means he was not just a king, he was a saintly king in the Grihastha ashram. So the point is, we have to gradually overcome the lower taste by developing higher Krishna conscious taste. It's a gradual process. This is a steady process. And in that way, one will not be troubled. If one is following the regulated principles of freedom under the guidance of Guru Sadhu Shastra, then these enemies will not trouble. Rather, the intelligence will be so nicely nourished. It's like vaccination, correct? We have discussed this point. Reading Bhagavad Gita, association of devotees, sadhu sangha, chanting of the holy name is vaccination to protect us from the attacks of lust. So when the attacks of lust happen, for example, in any way, if the friend says, "Oh, let's go for that new wine has come in the town, it's very, and I will pay it for you," it may be tempting, or so something else may be tempting. We have to see what is our weakness, so we have to be extra careful there. So the greatness is tested in provoking situations. But when we have the vaccination of sadhu sangha, regularly reading, hearing, then we'll say, "No, sorry, you carry on, I'm good here." Saying no will give us more strength, more spiritual strength. Same with someone is building, let's say, bodybuilder. He or she also has to say no to the temptations of the body, right? Correct? Because if the person, like, let's say, eats anything they want, and for even building the physical muscles, they have to say yes to the things which are conducive: exercise, routine, hard work, etc. Right? Proper diet, or they have to accept a certain food and not take certain food. They have to also say no. How much more is that required for building our intelligence, which is much more subtle? Building of something physically is easier because it is perceptible, but this intelligence, overcoming lust, this is more subtle, very subtle. So we have to sincerely try, and when we try sincerely, we will see this is not just a fairy tale process. And I'm sure those who are sincerely trying the process of bhakti can feel it. Pratyakshavágamam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. This process is very much perceivable by direct sense perception, actually. One can feel that, yes, my spiritual strength is growing. I'm easily able to say no to the bad demands of the mind. Earlier, I was so tempted to eat this, or to watch this, or to do this, but now I'm so happy in just the lifestyle, the Krishna conscious lifestyle I have, the Krishna conscious friends, the Krishna conscious books, the reading, hearing I have. I'm so happy with it. So I'll just conclude by again coming to this point. There are 5 types of consciousness. One is the achadit consciousness, completely covered. It can relate to the trees, completely covered. Then is the mirror example, the animalistic consciousness, which is called sankuchit consciousness, partially covered, tivra kama. Then is the one step higher, which is called the mukulit consciousness, which is the budding consciousness. So the covering is there, but it is not that intense. So 3 here. If I have to write here, yeah. Okay. Anyways, I think you're getting the point. So the third is the human level, or the conditioned human being. Then when one continues to follow the process of bhakti, comes the viksit consciousness, or the blooming from the bud, it keeps to blossom. So the blooming consciousness. So what's happening here? It's flowering by spiritual inquiry, by more and more spiritual realization, following the path of bhakti. It's not completely perfect, it's not fully blossomed, but it's blooming. The bhakti lata beach is expanding. That's called the viksit consciousness. That's kind of the stage of a sincere sadhaka. One is the third, the mukulit consciousness, is the stage of a conditioned soul who has the choice to inquire. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Only human life provides the choice. Animals can't ask, well, can I come for your Bhagavad Gita class? Can I chant the holy name? Can they ask? Can they have the option to join? Pretty much no, right? Maybe once in some kind of arrangement may happen. They may be sitting in a pandal program where Bhagavatam, but generally no. right? They don't have that choice. But humans have the choice of spiritual inquiry, of asking, why am I suffering? Why things are happening to me I don't want? Why I'm losing my dear one? Why I'm getting disease? I didn't pay for this disease. I wanted to be free from these. Why? What is the goal of life? Is there death? Why is death coming to me? I don't want death. So all these are questions which one should inquire. Athato Brahma Jityasa. Tad Vijnanartham sa Gurum eva vigachet. And for those, one should approach the spiritual master, not any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Then it will, if one sincerely follows, it will blossom, keep blossoming, and then finally one will come to the Purna Viksit consciousness or fully blossomed consciousness, that is the consciousness of a pure devotee, which we are all aspiring for, to get Krishna Prema, or pure love of Godhead. So this is in a nutshell chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, which is about Karma Yoga. So we just to quickly summarize the three acronym, we talk about Tyaga or renunciation. What is true renunciation? Not to give up activities, but to develop a sense of internal detachment. Then the different rungs of yoga ladder, step by step, keep moving ahead from Karma Kanda, Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, and ultimately pure Bhakti. And then even if one is, one has to follow the example, one has to be a good example. Everyone is leader in their own way. Leader for one person or 1,000 or 1 million, that may be different, but everyone is leader. So one has to be a good example. And then we discussed about the lust today, the enemy of the soul, eternal enemy of the soul. That's the last E. Where does it reside? How to overcome? What are the do's and don'ts? And the mind, intelligence, and the soul. So we discussed that piece today. This is chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So I'll pause here and maybe take some thoughts, questions, comments, any reflections anyone has. Please feel free to share your thoughts or reflections here. Yes, anyone wants to say something? Yes, I think Aparna Mataji want to share.
I can conclude this chapter by speaking the 3 S. Satsang plus Swadhyay plus self-Krishna conscious will overcome lust gradually in our life. Back to you.
True. Satsang, Swadhyaya, study of scripture, you said. Seva, very important. Sadachar, being a good example. Sad Acharan. Sadhu Sangha, Seva, Sadachar, Srimad Bhagavatam. Shravanam, very, very important. So all these things, these are the 5, 7 S's in Bhakti, which will really help us to overcome that. So very nice point. Thank you. Anyone else wants to say or add something? Or any questions, corrections? If I misspoke anything, please feel free to correct or add. No question means 2 options. Nothing is clear or everything is clear. And generally when I'm speaking, that the first option is actually the most common path. So yes, I think Shridhar Prabhu wants to say something, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thanks. You have very nicely explained chapter 3. It was very enlightening. Srila Prabhupada said that it's literally impossible in this material world not to be attached. That's the problem with the material world. Attachment is part and parcel, which is the holder of all this lust and anger and so on. And as you rightly mentioned earlier, the way to deal with that would be to divert that attachment towards Krishna and then engage we have to be attached. We cannot run away from the attachment. There are some believers who will say, I want to run away. And they would not eat for many, many weeks and days. I don't even want to taste food because I might get attached, or they would not do certain things. But I think what Krishna is prescribing here is that attachment to divert towards him. We are going to eat very nice prasadam offered to Krishna. We are going to sing very nice songs, kirtans for Krishna. We are going to hear nice katha from, devotees and acharyas. So we're going to do all activities. We're going to be attached, but for Krishna. And Krishna, I believe in the later chapters and verses, he would say, the way to do that, to be attached with him, can be done through abhyasena tu kaunteya, through practice. That's what we are all trying, Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the class.
Thank you so much for so beautifully summing up the whole chapter, Prabhu. Thank you. That's really nectar. Thank you so much. Anyone else wants to say something in the last few minutes we have, or ask anything or tell anything?
Hey, Krishna Prabhuji, just want to share one thing. You just explained that about our intelligence thing. So I just this morning I was talking to my wife about one thing, like sometimes even though we want to do we try to not to do some things which we don't want to do, but because some in bad intelligence we just try to do it, we do it, and one thing which I kind of reflected to me is when we know that something we don't want to do it, but we are still not able to control it, we have to get the higher taste, which is Harinam Sankirtan. Just at least recite that in your mind to get away from it. It could be that it might be, you might chant like 1 or 2 times, and that itself will say that itself could stop the thing that you don't want to do it. So that's one thing which I want to share it, and that really struck me during the class. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That's amazing. Very nice reflection or realization. Thank you. Yes, Ravi Prabhu, you want to say something?
Prabhuji, yeah, it's a question. Hare Krishna. As we talked about, our consciousness is having different layer of coverings from endless life that we have taken. And the solution that I have understood as of now is the chanting. The more chanting we do, the sooner or the faster the clearance will happen. So my question is, someday the chanting experience is really good. The whole 16 rounds goes so well, you feel like keep doing more. Someday the chanting, the drowsiness kicks in the mind, and then it becomes monotonous and you feel like you get drowsy. So is this a quite normal? Like, I have some prior experience with other meditation. They say you should not have, don't sit with the meditation session the same day, like having the expectation that, oh, yesterday I had a good meditation, let me have a same today. That will kind of discourage or frustrate you. So is the chanting something this is a normal that lately quite a few I experienced that some days in a week I'll have a very good chanting. Some day in a week it's like make me drowsy. And it's not that I'm having lack of sleep. I take enough sleep. So any solution, any tips is like a personal question, but maybe I thought let me discuss on this platform.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for such a nice question, actually, which is applicable to myself also and to many others, maybe. So yes, this will happen because we are not pure devotees, first of all. In the life of a pure devotee, there is absolutely no question of lack of taste. But I don't have that pure taste of holy name, correct? Rupa Goswami says, I want thousands of tongues and thousands of ears to experience the nectar contained in these 2 syllables, Krishna, these 2 words. But in the conditioned state or a sadhaka stage, it may not be there. But what to do? So we have to follow the regular. Therefore, it is called, the Vedi Bhakti, with the rules and regulations. Like a child, sometimes the child may not like to study, correct? Sometimes the child may like certain subjects, but sometimes the child may not like certain subjects, correct? That sometimes the child may not like certain food, even though it may be good for him or her. So there will be certain days we may feel like that. But if we continue, guess what is happening? Some devotees say chanting is like an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste. It will take time to first go through sincere chanting. And then we have to also be introspective. Okay, my today's experience was not so good. Yesterday was very good. What was different today and yesterday? So we must also be introspective. Oh, today my mind was running in the office thoughts, or today my mind was running in the home thoughts. So better next time. Yesterday I had the picture of Hare Krishna Mahamantra in front of me. I could focus better. So certain practical tips definitely are there. Chanting in association of devotees, we're trying in the morning, seeing the holy name, or in front of Tulasi Maharani. These are very practical. Chanting in the Brahma Muhurat hours. If you feel drowsy or sleepy, the recommendation is, okay, to stand up and chant loudly. Like someone is, like sometimes sleeping and say, hey, then they'll shake up. Oh, what's going on, right? Then they'll get alert, right? So yes, sometimes we have to mind us, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then somebody will say, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Back to back. We have to get back to, oh, I'm chanting. Oh, I should focus on chanting, not thinking about the office, not thinking about the home or cooking or whatnot. So there are a lot of practical tips as well. And at the same time, there's a reference in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Narad Muni, in his previous life, was the son of the maid servant. His mother died, and he went to the northern part. He experienced great experience. He saw the beautiful form of the Lord, but he was thinking that again, he thought again I'll meditate upon the Supreme Lord, and again I'll have that darshan. But guess what? What did Lord say? No, in this lifetime you'll not get that darshan again. You have to pay the price. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says one nice point in this regard. Sometimes Lord may give a free glimpse of His mercy by having wonderful experience in chanting, by having wonderful experience in Krishna Katha or something. But to get the full movie, like the trailer may be free, but to get the full movie, we have to pay the full price of sincerity, because He'll not give that pure, because it's like the best thing. Namaruchi, it's like the pure, having love for Krishna is like the best thing. He'll give money easily. He doesn't even bother, like demigod. Okay, you take care of these. They're asking for alpavad, antavantu phalam tesham. Material things. Okay, you want some money? My department people will give you. Okay, I'll give you that. He said, you want that? Okay, take it. But if you say, I want you, Krishna, then one has to show that sincerity, eagerness, enthusiasm, perseverance, patience. Then Krishna will certainly. So we have to keep persevering with taking shelter of devotees, shelter of the holy name, and the practical tips are also there as we discussed. I can share some more after the class. There's a nice article, multiple articles are there, how to chant properly. But recently also we asked this question to His Grace Visheshika Prabhu to be attentive, right? To be attentive when you're chanting. To be what am I thinking of? Am I thinking of the holy name, or am I thinking of my boss or my neighbor? So we could be thinking of million things, but to be attentive is a secret to strengthen relationships. So hope that is helpful.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Yeah, just wanted to refresh all that I've been hearing.
Thank you for helping refresh my own self. Any other last comments, additions, questions before we pause? Okay, so it's perfect 7 p.m. Eastern. So we will pause here and continue with the 4th chapter. For those who are reading, I encourage to please keep your reading on and read in advance and read later also. If really, so read the next 10-15 verses. And if you haven't read the 3rd chapter or till the 3rd chapter, I encourage to please read or reread. There is nothing better in life than to read Shastras. It will really strengthen our intelligence in Krishna consciousness. So we'll pause here and continue next week. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samavita Gaura Bhaktavind ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.